The Middle East does not lack peace because its people desire war. It lacks peace because power, fear, memory, and survival have fused into a system that rewards conflict and punishes compromise. Every ceasefire is temporary, every agreement fragile, because the forces driving instability are deeper than any single border or leader. At the center of the region's instability sits a triangle of rivalry. Iran, Israel, and Saudi Arabia are not fighting one war. They are fighting many, indirectly, across different countries, through different groups, under different names. This is not chaos, it is structured competition. Iran sees itself as a revolutionary state surrounded by enemies. Its leadership believes the United States and Israel will never accept the Islamic Republic's existence. From that belief comes strategy. Iran does not rely on direct confrontation. It builds influence through proxies. Militias in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Gaza extend Iran's reach without exposing it fully. Every proxy is both a shield and a sword. Israel views this network as an existential threat. It is a small country surrounded by hostile actors, many of whom deny its legitimacy. Israeli strategy is built on prevention. Strike before threats mature, disrupt supply lines, eliminate leadership, maintain military superiority at all costs. Peace for Israel is not an absence of enemies, it is the ability to survive despite them. Saudi Arabia represents a different fear. It is not surrounded by immediate existential threats, but it fears encirclement. Iran-backed groups on its borders challenge its influence and legitimacy. Riyadh does not want regional revolution. It wants order. Stability protects monarchy. Instability invites internal pressure. These three powers do not meet on battlefields directly. They meet through others. Lebanon becomes a front through Hezbollah. Syria becomes a chessboard for influence. Yemen turns into a proxy disaster. Iraq becomes contested ground. Gaza becomes a pressure point. Civilians pay the price everywhere. Proxy wars persist because they lower risk for powerful states. They allow denial. They spread responsibility. They prolong conflict without decisive outcomes. Victory becomes undefined. Survival becomes the objective. Religion amplifies these rivalries, but does not fully explain them. Sunni versus Shia division matters, but power matters more. Ideology is often a language used to mobilize, not the root cause. Control, deterrence, and regional dominance drive decisions. External powers complicate everything. The United States has intervened repeatedly, sometimes decisively, often inconsistently. Its presence reshaped regimes but failed to stabilize systems. Russia entered Syria to preserve influence, not peace. China avoids military involvement but benefits from instability that distracts rivals. Borders drawn after colonial rule never reflected realities on the ground. States contain competing identities, tribes, sects, and histories forced together. Weak governance leaves space for militias. Militias become political actors. Politics becomes militarized. The cycle continues. Peace requires trust. The Middle East is shaped by betrayal, broken promises, overthrown governments, occupations, sanctions, wars justified as temporary but lasting generations. Memory becomes weaponized. Every community remembers a different injustice. Attempts at peace often fail because they address symptoms, not systems. Treaties may stop wars between states, but proxy networks remain. Ceasefires may quiet borders, but grievances deepen. Without addressing security fears, economic desperation, and political exclusion, peace collapses. The Abraham Accords showed that alliances can shift. Former enemies can cooperate, but they did not resolve the core rivalries. Iran felt threatened. Proxy pressure increased. Normalization created new lines of tension rather than erasing old ones. The region does not lack diplomacy. It lacks confidence that peace will last. Every actor prepares for betrayal. Every compromise is seen as weakness. Leaders fear internal backlash more than external conflict. As long as power is projected through proxies, wars will remain endless and unofficial. As long as survival depends on deterrence, escalation will feel rational. And as long as history remains unresolved, peace will feel temporary. This is not a region addicted to war. It is a region trapped by it. Peace in the Middle East fails not because agreements are impossible, but because insecurity is permanent. Every major actor believes that survival depends on being prepared for the worst, not trusting the best. This mindset transforms every political move into a military calculation, and every negotiation into a temporary pause. Iran's strategy is often misunderstood as reckless aggression. In reality, it is rooted in defensive paranoia shaped by history. The Iran-Iraq War left deep scars. Chemical attacks, international silence, and isolation convinced Tehran that self-reliance and deterrence were the only guarantees of survival. From that trauma emerged the doctrine built on depth rather than distance. Iran does not defend its borders by fortifying them. It defends them by pushing confrontation outward. That is why Iran invests in Hezbollah, militias in Iraq, forces in Syria, and influence in Yemen. Each proxy creates a buffer. Each front complicates retaliation. Iran knows it cannot defeat Israel or the United States directly. Instead, it seeks to make any attack costly, chaotic, and region-wide. Deterrence through entanglement. Israel views this doctrine as an existential noose tightening slowly. Hezbollah's missile arsenal grows. Iranian advisors appear closer to Israeli borders. Precision weapons threaten critical infrastructure. Israel's response is built on speed and dominance. Intelligence, air power, and preemptive strikes form the backbone of its survival strategy. Israel does not wait for threats to become existential. It neutralizes them early, often silently. This creates a dangerous rhythm. Iran advances incrementally. Israel responds surgically. Each side claims restraint. Each side escalates. War never fully begins, but it never truly ends either. Saudi Arabia occupies a different psychological space. It fears collapse more than invasion. Internal legitimacy matters deeply. The monarchy's authority rests on stability, religious credibility, and economic distribution. Proxy conflict threatens all three. Iranian influence in Yemen, Iraq, and Lebanon challenges Saudi leadership of the Sunni world. Riyadh responds through alliances, funding, and intervention, often indirectly, sometimes disastrously. Yemen became the clearest example of proxy logic turning catastrophic. What began as a local power struggle escalated into a regional confrontation. Iran gained leverage cheaply. Saudi Arabia inherited a war with no clean exit. Civilians suffered massively. No decisive victory emerged. Proxy war logic rewarded persistence, not resolution. Iraq illustrates another trap. After the fall of Saddam Hussein, power vacuums invited competition. Iran filled space through militias. America tried to stabilize without owning the outcome. Iraqi sovereignty fractured under competing loyalties. Peace existed on paper, instability in practice. Syria became the ultimate battleground. A local uprising turned into a global proxy war. Iran, Russia, the United States, Turkey, and Gulf states all intervened with different goals. The regime survived, the country shattered. Influence was preserved, peace was postponed indefinitely. These conflicts endure because none of the major players faced decisive defeat. Proxy wars spread costs across populations that lack leverage. Leaders survive, civilians endure. The system sustains itself. Religion intensifies loyalty, but it is not the engine. The engine is fear. Fear of encirclement, fear of regime change, fear of losing influence, fear of internal collapse. These fears turn compromise into risk and confrontation into insurance. External powers deepen this dynamic. The United States wants stability without entanglement. Russia wants influence without reconstruction. China wants access without responsibility. None prioritize regional peace over strategic advantage. This reinforces local incentives to hedge rather than resolve. Peace initiatives fail because they assume rational trust. The region operates on rational suspicion. Agreements are tested immediately. Violations are expected. Enforcement is weak. Without a credible security framework that addresses core fears, peace feels unsafe. Even normalization efforts reflect this reality. They reduce some tensions but expose others. New alliances shift balance, provoking countermoves. Peace between some actors intensifies rivalry with others. The system adapts, not resolves. The Middle East is not uniquely violent. It is uniquely strategic. Geography, resources, and history intersect here more intensely than almost anywhere else. Global powers project competition into the region. Local powers respond by militarizing survival. Peace would require a transformation of incentives, reduced proxy utility, credible security guarantees, economic integration that benefits populations, not just elites, political systems that absorb dissent without collapse. None of these are impossible. All of them threaten existing power structures. So peace remains elusive not because it is unwanted, but because it is risky. Leaders calculate that managed conflict is safer than uncertain peace. As long as that calculation holds, wars will continue unofficially, endlessly, and destructively. The Middle East does not fail to find peace because it does not search for it. It fails because the cost of trusting it feels higher than the cost of fighting without an end. And until fear is replaced by security, peace will remain an idea rather than a reality.